In 2012, two families left the city. They left most of their worldly possessions behind, along with the conveniences of modern American living. It's today that these two families have relocated themselves in the mountains of the American Ozarks to build for themselves a more sustainable and fulfilling lifestyle.
We are an American Homestead!
This week on An American Homestead, our family shares how we came to the decision to leave the city and live off-grid. We literally left the world behind to start something new. Plus, we're cooking sourdough in the kitchen. Thanks for watching, and be sure to visit us online at anamericanhomestead.com. So what are you doing today?
Well, I'm cleaning up our mealworm factory. We have probably anywhere from 500 to 700 worms in the factory, in the farm. And then I'm also, see, here's one. I'm also taking out the pupa. So you have the worms and the pupa.
Oh, okay. So the one on the right is the worm, and the one on the left is the pupa.
Right. So the worm turns into the pupa.
And then what happens to the pupa?
And then the pupa turns into a beetle. So I'm putting the pupas over here. And then I check them every day to see if we have any beetles or not.
And so the beetles will hatch out of the pupa.
Right.
Okay, and then you take the beetles, and then what do they do?
And the beetles will go into a tray over here when I get beetles. I'll put oatmeal in here, and then beetles, and then I'll feed them carrots and or apple cores, things like that. Fresh vegetables. And then each beetle lays about 500 eggs. And then we'll hatch out the eggs, and the cycle starts all over again.
Wow. So what's the whole purpose of this?
We're going to be feeding our chickens a snack. You never can feed chickens enough. And then it'll be a supplement food for our fish also.
Fish food. Fish food and chicken food.
Yeah. So I take and I pull out the dried food, and then I mix up the oatmeal to make sure it stays dry. I don't want it to go moist. They don't like moisture.
In the meantime, you're pulling out the pupa.
Yeah, and I'm pulling out all the dead worms. They die for some reason. And then we'll feed the dead worms to the chickens. So there's not much that really goes to waste.
And then the live pupa, you take those and those turn into beetles.
Yeah.
And you can see how you can see the chew marks. Let me get that to focus in.
Yeah.
You can see the chew marks into the carrots there, where they've been chewing on the carrots.
Yeah, they've only had these carrots since Tuesday.
So yeah, you can see definitely the chew marks there.
The longer they're in there, they just chew them up. That's where they get their moisture. You don't have to give them water or anything. They get their moisture from the vegetables. So another 4 or 6 weeks, we should be having some fresh little worms to feed to the chickens and the fish.
And you're going to build these colonies out to just be more colonies.
Yeah. Now see, I have the worms and the oatmeal in the top section. Then I have the green drawer. Mm-hmm. This is where I put the frascos.
Okay, that's the insect frass. It's just the worm poop.
Yeah. Then there's a little bit of oatmeal granules that get in there.
And all that can be used. That's great fertilizer.
Yeah, but that'll be all for fertilizer.
Very good. And so we have a lot of space to build out more colonies, as you can see.
Yeah, these will all be for beetles.
And then there's the fresh carrots. What's the point of the
It keeps them in the dark. They like the dark.
Okay.
Especially the beetles. Well, it's been almost 2 years ago now, maybe a little bit more. We were presented with the idea of moving and living off-grid, which seemed kind of attractive to us. but we had to look at a lot of preparation involved in that. For us, it was looking at retirement and leaving our work and phasing that part of our life out, and then look at selling some of our rental homes and selling our primary home, having lots of garage sales and just getting rid of lots and lots of things and furniture. And Craigslist and eBay become very popular to us, and just getting rid of things and paring it down to be able to move into a small home. Part of the preparation, other than selling things, was then looking for a location where we could move. We got a hold of one of these storage facilities in town, and we started moving our things into there just to store it, so we'd have it in the near proximity, so when we got ready to move on the land, we would have our things readily and available. Also, in preparation for moving on the land, we had to look at how we're going to take care of the land. We had to look for a tractor. Found a used Massey Ferguson tractor. It's a real workhorse. We had to look at developing our aquaponics and an outhouse and getting a grader to come in to start digging a hole for our outhouse, and a trench for the aquaponics to put our fish tank. The idea of living simply was really very attractive to us. We were missionaries for 25 years, and we lived in Papua New Guinea for a good half of that time. And living there simply, we had a wood-burning hot water heater, didn't have television or a lot of the modern conveniences. Living in a third world country is just different than what it is living in America. And that simple lifestyle was very attractive to us. So when we got the idea that we would like to do that and move to the Ozarks, we just jumped at the chance because we knew we enjoyed having that simple lifestyle.
My husband and I had always had a desire to live self-sufficiently, to have a piece of property where we could raise our own animals, where we could grow our own garden, where we could learn to be as self-sufficient as possible, to raise all of our own food as much as possible. But to begin all of that, we had to do a lot of research, and we had to figure out how to live off-grid, because that was our ultimate goal, to learn to be as self-sufficient as possible. We didn't want to rely on the electricity that we would have to plug into, as well as city water and all of those things that we would have to plug into. So we decided to learn to be as self-sufficient as possible. For us, meant living off-grid. So we had to do a lot of research before we even moved, and a lot of that research were things like, what would we do without indoor plumbing? How would we get water into the house? How would we have a functioning toilet inside the house? What would we do for electricity? Maybe computers, how would we charge those? What would we do for lights? One of the biggest things I did research on was how I would do laundry. After we did our research, we realized that there were some things that we needed to purchase before we moved off-grid. A wash tub, what's called a mobile washer, which is basically like a big plastic plunger. We purchased a wringer for doing the clothes. Those three things are how we wash our clothes every day. We also purchased some kerosene lanterns, and we use those regularly, especially in the winter time. We also had to sell a lot of our things. One of our goals in moving was to live more simply, and that required us getting rid of a lot of our stuff. I would say that we probably got rid of at least half of what we owned. So if something didn't have a function in our life, we got rid of it.
Yeah, we got rid of loads of stuff when we moved, and that's one of the things about society today. We are loaded down as Americans with so much stuff. We are in this consumer-based society where we have to consume, and get. And there's just underlying theme that whoever dies with the most toys wins. Think about the American society right now. You are loaded down with so much stuff, and you, when you start out in life, you maybe go to school for a certain amount of time, and then you get married, and then you have some kids. But as you go, you accumulate more and more stuff because that's how our consumer society is based, and you have to continue moving into bigger and bigger houses to put it all. So really, when the time comes to decide, you know what, I really want to get out of the city and maybe find a simpler life, and that's maybe not so simple. It's hard, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked in your life, but at the same time, the hard work is going to be more rewarding. Living like this on a homestead, you can't move. And so many people have come and asked me questions online or wherever and say, hey, listen, how did you get started? I really want to do what you do. But one of the things that prevents them from doing what we did is the stuff.
Things like electric lamps. We don't own any table lamps or floor lamps or anything like that. We got rid of all of that before we came to the Ozarks. So we took tons and tons of trips to the Goodwill, pretty much every week for, I don't know, at least 6 months. We would load up the back of our minivan, and anytime I was going anywhere, I would stop by the Goodwill drop-off, and the nice friendly man would unload my load, and I would go on my way. And then the next time I ran an errand, the same thing. You know, digging to the back of your closet, pulling absolutely everything out, that's what I did. And if it didn't meet the criteria of being functional or something that had a lot of sentimental value, then I got rid of it. So when we were first getting rid of all this stuff, we didn't have a definite plan on what we were going to do. But as time progressed and we realized that we were actually moving, and that my parents were moving along with us, they moved from Texas and we moved from St. Louis, and they wanted to move with us. So what my dad decided to do was purchase a couple trailers for our two families to live in. So toward the end, when we realized we were moving into trailers, I had to figure out not only the things that I wanted to get rid of, but also the things that I would need living in a very small trailer long term. So I had my trailer pile where I would just put things in bins or boxes that I knew I would need in a trailer for living in that small space.
Yeah, so living in a trailer, a 25-foot trailer for, I don't know how many months, of our lives through a whole winter, it was hard, but at the same time, we were determined to make this work. I had left the job back in the city, and I was determined to eventually build something where I could work from home and still make money. But we were determined to make this work no matter what happened. And we as a family were going to stick together through the whole process. And it was hard, it was tough, but overall we learned a lot, and we're better off, way better off for it. So why go through all this? Why put yourself through a winter with 20 and 30 degree temperatures, freezing inside of a small 25-foot trailer, spending 9-10 months inside this trailer, or trying to figure out where you're going to buy this land, and going without all of these things, conveniences, and a steady job that you had back in the city? Why go through all that? Well, it's a matter of telling yourself or asking yourself, how bad do I really want to get out of the city? How bad do I really want to detach from this horrible system that we find ourselves in America today? This consumer-based rat race that so many people are getting frustrated with. How bad do I want to get away from that? Am I willing to go through a number of hardships and put my family through a number of stresses in order to do that? Yeah, the answer for us was yes. We wanted to do that, and it was going to be hard, it was going to be stressful, but I really wanted to detach, and my wife and family really wanted to detach that bad, that we would put ourselves through that sort of torture in order to be disconnected from the society that we were seeing, and giving us a new opportunity to raising our family and a new with a new worldview, so to speak, of hard work, dedication, and self-sustainability. That kind of lifestyle really appealed to us, and it gave us hope for a future for our family.
I've been milling my own flour for about 7 years now, using only 100% whole grain, non-GMO berries. I mill wheat berries and rye berries. I do 2 different kinds of wheat. I'll do some hard white winter wheat and I'll do some soft white winter wheat.
We make all of our bread from scratch. You have to start with making a starter. The starter is really easy to make. It takes about a week or maybe a few days less to get enough for making bread and then have starter left over. The first thing you do with the starter is 2 cups of flour and 2 cups of water. And you cover it with a towel and set it in a warm place. In the summertime, that's not hard to find. Every day you add a cup of flour and a cup of water until you have enough to make bread and leave 2 cups of starter. I like to leave 2 cups of starter.
A lot of success in raising a good sourdough loaf is the amount and quality of flour that you use. However, we are really looking forward to using our new outdoor pizza oven, which a lot of people have recommended for baking sourdough bread, that it turns out really, really well. So we'll have to see what our success will be when we use that and how it will affect the inside as well as the outside of the loaf.
Thanks for tuning in each week for An American Homestead. Be sure to like us on Facebook and share us with your friends and family. Check back again next week to see what we're up to. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next week on An American Homestead.